The crystalline halls of the Valkyrie Empire stretched across 3 solar systems, and Princess Kalara had walked them all her life with the certainty of someone born to rule. Her scales shimmered violet in the light of a dozen conquered suns, and her 4 eyes held the cold calculation that came with centuries of selective breeding. She was perfect, as all Valkyrie royalty were perfect, and she knew it. The humans were a curiosity, nothing more. When their ramshackle vessels first appeared at the edge of Valkyrie space, the Empire had laughed. These creatures with their soft skin and single pair of eyes, who lived and died in mere decades, thought they could negotiate trade agreements. They thought they deserved a seat at the table where ancient species decided the fate of worlds. Kalara had been there when her father, Emperor Thaldos, received the human delegation. She remembered watching them shuffle into the throne room in their primitive environmental suits, remembered the way they struggled with the formal prostrations that came naturally to every other species. The ambassador, a weathered man named Marcus Cole, had spoken of Earth with pride, describing a world of blue oceans and green continents, of billions of humans working together toward a common future. "We wish only for fair access to the trade lanes," Cole had said, his voice steady despite the obvious fear. "We ask nothing more than the chance to prove ourselves." Thaldos had smiled, showing rows of crystalline teeth. "And what do you offer in return for this privilege?" "Our labor, our innovation, our loyalty to the laws that govern civilized space." The court had erupted in laughter. Kalara had laughed too, watching these fragile creatures who thought their enthusiasm could substitute for strength. That evening, during the festivities that followed, Kalara had found herself in conversation with Lord Mekther, one of the Empire's most decorated military commanders. He was boasting about how easily humanity could be crushed if they ever stepped out of line. "They have no real weapons," Mekther said, his voice thick with wine. "Their largest ships barely qualify as corvettes by our standards. One battle group could scour their homeworld clean in a day." Kalara, emboldened by her own indulgence and the certainty of her superiority, had laughed. "I could break them with economics alone. No weapons necessary. A bold claim, Princess. More than a claim. A guarantee." She leaned forward, her eyes glittering. "I wager my entire personal fortune, my holdings, my estates, everything, that I can bring humanity to its knees through trade manipulation alone within 2 standard cycles. They will beg us for mercy." The room had gone quiet. Personal fortunes among Valkyrie royalty were substantial, accumulated over lifetimes that spanned centuries. Kalara's holdings included 17 planets, mining operations across 40 systems, and enough credits to fund a war. Mekther's smile widened. "And when you fail?" "I won't, but if you do." Kalara straightened, her pride burning bright. "Then I forfeit everything. My title, my wealth, my position. All of it goes to the humans." The wager was recorded, as all formal bets among the nobility were recorded in the Empire's central registry. It became official the moment both parties signed with their genetic markers. Kalara barely noticed the fine print, the clauses that made the agreement binding under galactic law. She was too busy planning humanity's downfall. She began subtly, using her influence to restrict human access to certain trade routes. She bought up contracts the human merchants depended on and canceled them at the last moment. She spread rumors through her network of contacts, suggesting that human goods were inferior, that human workers were unreliable, that doing business with Earth was a liability dot for the first few months. It seemed to be working. Human trade ships sat idle at stations, unable to secure contracts. Their economies strained under the pressure. Reports reached Kalara of protests on Earth, of growing unrest as unemployment rose and goods became scarce. But then something changed. The humans adapted in ways Kalara had never anticipated. They began manufacturing goods the galaxy didn't know it needed. Entertainment, unlike anything the ancient species had seen. Music that stirred emotions long thought extinct. Art that challenged perspectives unchanged for millennia. They offered services, consultation, innovation born from their short frantic lives where every moment counted. Human engineers started solving problems that had plagued other species for generations, approaching challenges from angles that longer-lived species never considered. Their medical researchers made breakthroughs by combining techniques from a dozen different traditions, unbound by the rigid thinking that came with centuries of established doctrine. Where Kalara had cut off one revenue stream, humans created 3 more. Where she had closed one door, they built new ones. Their desperation, which she had counted on to break them, instead became a kind of savage creativity that the comfortable ancient species had forgotten. The 2 cycles passed faster than Kalara had expected. When the day of reckoning came, she stood before the Galactic Commerce Tribunal with growing dread. The numbers were undeniable. Despite everything she had done, humanity's economic indicators had not only survived, but had grown. They had secured new contracts, established new partnerships, and created entirely new markets. She had lost the wager. The tribunal's judgment was swift and merciless. Everything she owned, every asset, every holding, was transferred to Earth's collective trust. Her title was stripped. Her position dissolved. She became, in the span of a single document signing, nobody. But the Empire's humiliation had only begun. News of the wager spread across the galaxy. The proud Valkyrie Empire, represented by one of its own princesses, had been beaten by humanity through simple economics. The species that everyone had dismissed as primitive upstarts had outmaneuvered Valkyrie royalty. Other species began to reconsider their assumptions about humans. If they could withstand focused economic warfare from a Valkyrie princess and emerge stronger, what else were they capable of? Trade agreements that had been denied were suddenly reconsidered. Partnerships that had seemed impossible were now pursued eagerly. The Empire, meanwhile, turned its fury on Kalara. Her family disowned her publicly. Her father declared her name stricken from the royal records. Former allies pretended they had never known her. She went from princess to pariah overnight, and the fall was absolute. Ambassador Cole, to his credit, offered her asylum on Earth. It was an act of mercy she didn't deserve, and she knew it. When she arrived on the human homeworld, stripped of everything she had been, she expected mockery or revenge. Instead, she found something more disturbing: understanding. The humans put her to work in their agricultural sectors, teaching her the value of labor she had never understood. They showed her their cities built through collective effort, their schools where knowledge was freely shared, their hospitals where care was given regardless of ability to pay. "You thought we were weak because we're short-lived," Cole told her one evening as they stood watching the sunset over a human city. "But that's exactly what makes us strong. We don't have time to waste on pride or centuries of tradition. We have to make every generation count. We have to adapt or die. You gave us a challenge, and we did what we always do. We survived it, and we came out better." Kalara watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in colors she had never bothered to appreciate before. Humans called them beautiful. She was beginning to understand why. The galaxy had turned against her, yes. But perhaps the galaxy had been wrong about more than just her. Perhaps it had been wrong about humanity too. And perhaps, in losing everything, she had gained the one thing her perfect upbringing had never given her: the chance to learn what actually mattered. The former princess bent down, her hands in the soil of an alien world, planting seeds that would feed people she had once considered beneath her. The work was hard, humbling, and strangely satisfying. She had lost everything in a risky bet. But looking around at the humans working beside her, laughing and joking despite the labor, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she had finally found something worth having.